Welcome to the Register's Report. My name is John Buckley. I'm the Register of Deeds of Plymouth County. This show is about Plymouth County real estate. Our headline for the month was Deeds and Mortgages Recording are Improving. So let's go right to the numbers. First of all, you'll see a listing of deeds in a bar chart. There were 689 deeds recorded in October, less than the 711 in September, 16% more than last year. Overall for the year, we're down 1% than last year. Our average sale price throughout Plymouth County, again, which is a very diverse county, was $652,000, 020, which is up 6% over last year. You're going to see an image of deeds and unit deeds, meaning condo deeds, sold in Plymouth County. There are 27 communities, all the way from Abington to Whitman, although Plymouth and Brockton have always had the largest amount of activity, as they've done again this month. You're going to see a bar chart for mortgages. There were 1,341 mortgages recorded in October, more than the 1,241 in September. Clearly, we're seeing more mortgages being recorded. The rates really haven't changed that much since the Federal Reserve made a decision to lower the federal funds rate, but it is we're seeing more mortgages recorded because there was 28% higher number of mortgages recorded this October than last October. And actually it was the highest number of mortgages recorded in 2 years. For the year, we're up 2%. The next image you're going to see is of foreclosure deeds. Ever since the meltdown in 2008, we've tracked foreclosure deeds very closely. There really hasn't been a lot of increase in foreclosure deeds since the COVID period. During the COVID period, there was a freeze on a moratorium on recording foreclosure notices and deeds, and it's still very, very low. There were only 13 foreclosure deeds in October, only a little bit more than the 12 in September. 19% year-to-date. A foreclosure deed is when the lender has taken back property from someone, usually for failure to pay. Could be a variety of reasons, health, economic, losing a job. But it's a very difficult time for people. And back in, again, 2008, it was a crazy period. There's just a lot of crazy actions going on by lenders. But it's 19% less than last month, and year-to-date, we're down 3%. So you're going to see an image of foreclosure notices. Now, a foreclosure notice is the first document that we see at the Registry of Deeds that shows someone's in difficulty. It's the first process that a lender will file. And there were 43 foreclosure notices in October, less than the 49 in September, 13% higher than last October, and up 10% year-to-date. And as I started to say in the foreclosure deeds discussion, when we get a foreclosure notice, that means a lender has started the foreclosure process. It's a very detailed process they have to go through of notifications and warnings and all that. But if you find yourself in difficulty paying your mortgage, I advise you as soon as you can to reach out to a group like NeighborWorks. There's one of their offices on Legion Parkway in Brockton, and they may be able to help you modify the terms of your loan, which may keep you in your house. And obviously that's what everyone wants to do. You're going to see a listing of foreclosures in orders of notice. Again, all 27 communities from Abington down to Whitman But you'll see on that list a lot of zeros because, again, the lenders aren't really moving very quickly right now. I want everyone to be aware that we have a free property fraud alert. I know that a lot of people are concerned about what's happening out there in the marketplace. When you own a home, you have to be proactive, and there are a lot of people trying to take advantage of you because your home is your most valuable asset, but it's also something people may try to go after. Since we last met, we had a visit from the students from West Cork Island, one of the towns in Plymouth County, Situate, the town with the most people of Irish heritage in America. I have a program with a sister town agreement, and their area is West Cork Island, and they do a student exchange every year that students from Situate High go to West Cork, and students from West Cork come to Plymouth County. They go and visit the Patuxent Plymouth Museum down in Plymouth. Then they come over to our maid building in Plymouth at 50 Aubrey Street and look at some of our very famous and well-kept Plymouth colony records as part of their learning about American history. We had a great visit again. And my guest in the second segment of the show will be County Commissioner Greg Hanley, who's going to talk as a follow-up visit about the county delegation going to Donegal County, Ireland. Just like Situate has a sister city relationship with West Cork, Plymouth County has a sister county relationship with Donegal, Ireland. And Commissioner Hanley will be here to talk about that. So we'll see you in the next segment. Welcome back to the Register's Report. My name is John Buckley. I am the Register of Deeds of Plymouth County. And this is the second segment of this show. And in this segment of the show, we always have a guest, educational component, and we've had surveyors, appraisers, realtors, many, and builders, and everything related to real estate. But from time to time, we get into some of the programs that Plymouth County has been involved with, or some of our other historical achievements around the county. And in this particular case, I have a great guest, County Commissioner Greg Hanley. Welcome.
Thank you, Register Buckley. How are you today?
You've been a guest in multiple capacities over the years. And we're going to talk about the Plymouth County, Donegal County relationship and how it all started by you.
Well, I can't take all the credit.
Yeah.
You are my co-sponsor.
Okay, yeah.
And as I've said for the last 12 years as an elected official, I am always your apprentice. So I took your advice, and as you know, we formed a formal relationship with the County of Donegal, Ireland. And it centers around economic development, historical significance with tourism and culture. So for the past 3 years now, we have brought a delegation over to Ireland to discuss those topics, and vice versa. They have brought delegations over to us. We just returned from this past September on a trip over to Donegal that ended with a wonderful event, the Galway Oyster Festival.
So the first time they came over, there was an event held at Pilgrim Hall in Plymouth where basically it was an introductory thing that they came and we talked about the idea. They actually saw some of the bones left of a shipwreck that they had in their basement and brought it out to display where some of the first Irish people ever came to America. And they found that fascinating. And then they invited us back, and we went to a number of places, including Donegal town, and went to the castle of the O'Donnells.
The O'Donnells in Donegal town, and it was actually a good nexus for us to discuss the Pequot Village, the old Plymouth plantation, in a subsequent year after we had visited that historic setting and discussed the tourism. We actually hosted the mayor of Donegal, Martin Harley, along with Gary Martin, the economic development person, and your assistant, Deputy Register Tim White, was a renowned scholar down there, and we had a wonderful day, and we then followed that up with an event at the Hibernian Pub in Scituate, which is part of the Irish Heritage Trail, and we had an old-fashioned Kaylee and introduced them to the trail itself, and also the site of the Brig St. John, which was one of the Irish coffin ships that had sunk. And that was a great exchange of the cultural/tourism piece that they brought back to them. If you recall, they were also invited to speak to what they called the Blue-Green Conference in concert with Dr. Stephen Cohn from Plymouth, was it, I believe? Yeah. And the conference was the Blue-Green Economy, and it was an amazing conference, and it was well received. We're similar in climate and in water location, that kelp farming, and also the mossing, the sea mossing. You and I brought our delegation over to Scituate to see the mossing museum. But there was a lot of interest in starting that program over here. So that's just one of many things over the last couple of days that we've discussed and brought back as an opportunity for our county.
You mentioned the South Shore Irish Heritage Trail. If people want to do all or part of that trip, just go online, South Shore Irish Heritage Trail, and that particular site on that trail you talked about is a very, it's like an eerie place to go. It's a monument on the top of a hill of a cemetery in Cohasset, which is Norfolk County, but it's right between Scituate and Hingham. And it is the place where the folks who had been shipwrecked in Cohasset Harbor died, and it's a mass grave in honor of them, those people who were trying to escape during the famine from Ireland in the mid-1800s.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's the oldest monument, first in the country, marking the passing of all those folks that didn't make it. It was a storm that was in the middle of the night. It wasn't anticipated. The night before, they knew they were going to see land. They had a big party on deck. And then the next day, they hit a storm and hit some rocks. And the townsfolk from Duxbury, Scituate, Cohasset, all responded and started rowing out. But when they saw the English crew leaving, that indicated to them that there was no more passengers on the ship. And unfortunately, there were 99 souls that perished. And so that's a big feature. The Irish Heritage Trail begins in Weymouth. And we just recently, as you're aware, found historical records through your Registry of Deeds that located the first Irish settlement in Dublin, Plymouth, which is right downtown, right near Main Street.
Right off of Water Street.
Off of Water Street, right near the cafe there. So very interesting. We had the Irish Consulate General, Sheila Fitzgerald, down to mark that. And the Ancient Order of Hibernians, the Father Murphy Division 9 group, got together and they're raising money. They got permission from the town of Plymouth to add another stop to the Irish Heritage Trail, which again is wonderful. Plymouth County, as you know, is the highest density of Irish in the country. And within our county, the town of Scituate is the highest amount of people with Irish heritage. So it's really a program that I think for us has been enriching as far as our own culture. We chose Donegal because the McLaughlin name is my mother's maiden name, but also our colleague and former state representative right here in Brockton, the Irish ambassador, American ambassador to Ireland, is our friend Claire Cronin, and her maiden name was McLaughlin as well.
And their connections there too.
Yes. So it was
that's a great story.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, it's something different in government, and I can tell you it's going to yield fruit. So as you know, we travel to Ireland and then we host, working with Councillor Jack Lally and Rob May and the economic development people, as well as the mayor, Robert Sullivan. We are going to host a delegation of Irish entrepreneurs and government officials in May. And we're talking about an innovation center opportunity and an incubator space for Irish businesses to invest here in the U.S. I know that the Metro West's Chamber...
Metro South.
Metro South, excuse me. I was in Drake for a little while, so Metro West as it comes to... But Councilor Lally has been working hard. I know he had a Zoom last week discussing the details and the parameters, and I think it's a great opportunity for the city to showcase its history, its potential for tourism, and more importantly, its business opportunities. The city's making a great comeback, and the mayor has led the way, but it takes people like Councilor Lally and in the city council to develop this thing. We're love to be a part of it as county officials, and you're a former Brockton resident, and we do have our registry of deeds in the Superior Court, so we have a stake in what goes on in Brockton, and we're here to support the city and hopefully introduce them to our partners from Donegal and see where it takes us.
Yeah, I mean, the visit by the delegation twice now, and their visits to us twice have always been very organized events. And I know the visit, they're coming back in May, will also be very organized and productive event.
Yeah, I mean, it's a business trip, for all of us. So when we go over there, it's business, and then when they come here, it's business. I will say we have had some fascinating participants on our side. We had Senator Michael Brady with us this time. We had the Clerk of Courts, Mr. Creedon, Robert Creedon has been part of our group. We also had Attorney John McCluskey, and he has an interesting background, and that's what brought us to the Galway Oyster Festival. You could maybe speak a little bit about...
Now that John McCluskey, my former law partner, is the only oysterman/attorney that I know. And for many years, he ran a business in Duxbury Harbor harvesting oysters.
So we did have that tour of Kellybegs, the deepest seawater port in Europe, and that was part of the conversation, was oystering and shellfish. And John, who actually promulgated rules and regulations for the oyster industry here in Massachusetts, we had a lively discussion about that up in Buncrana in Ashowan, where we also got to attend the Tip O'Neill Awards. And I know Tom O'Neill, the son, who's the host, you and he served together under Congressman Brian Donnelly?
I was an intern for him when he was lieutenant governor.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Back in my college.
You weren't together with him?
No, back in my college.
Oh my goodness,
I worked
sorry.
for him, not with him.
Well, Brian Donnelly, you worked...
I did work for him. I worked for him.
And for the Irish, well, I always like to say, but people know Brian Donnelly because of the Donnelly visa.
Yeah, no, very active in Irish affairs.
Yes.
That's a great story, and it's a story that'll continue. I mentioned earlier that we also have the involvement with the Situate Sister City program. When the West Cork kids come over, we host them in a Plymouth County building, the Plymouth County Registry of Deeds, after they visit the Plymouth Patuxent Museum and show them the colony records, and I know you've been part of that in the past too.
Well, when I am asked by my my senior man to participate, I do it out of respect, but also because it is a good program.
Yeah, and kids love it.
Yeah.
Their hosts are thrilled. We show them around, take them off their hands for a couple hours, and buy them lunch and send them on their way.
Yeah, it's a great memory when you can travel abroad like that. In our partnership, it just helps foster that program. So it
is something that will continue. Again, I think you deserve all the credit for bringing it forward. Everybody's jumped on when they can, and I think the people that watch these shows and want to understand what's going on in our world should know about it. And that's why we came here to talk about it.
Well, I thank you for the opportunity to be here, and also I have to, thank the mayor, Robert Sullivan, and Jack Lally for their hard work. I mean, this time around, we have an opportunity to exhibit our cultural experiences here, and I got to be honest with you, I was at the Charity Guild event earlier in the year, and the Brockton High Choral Group is fantastic. So I'm hoping we can coordinate with them and show them
for their visit.
Yeah, because the mayor of Donegal will be in attendance.
Right.
So that's going to be a good cultural exchange. So looking forward.
In Donegal, the mayors alternate. Actually, they're not even called the mayor. They're called some Irish name, but it's what we call the mayor.
I think it's Carhala.
Carhala. And actually, we've served on our trips with 3 different mayors.
We have. Yep. We had Martin Harley. We had Neve Kennedy.
Yeah.
And, oh my goodness, the first gentleman was...
Liam Blaney.
Liam Blaney, yep. And he was an interesting fellow who has long historical ties with the Irish government.
And Liam was a farmer.
That's right. Yeah. Wow.
So thank you very much for coming on the show. Great to see you again.
My pleasure, John.
Have a good Thanksgiving. So I want to thank Commissioner Hanley for the great job he did at describing the Plymouth County, Donegal County relationship. It's really been a fantastic thing when they come to see us or we go to see them. And I know based upon our latest trip, Councilor Jack Lally, Ward 6 Council in Brockton, is working to have them come to Brockton. And he's working on a program with the Brockton Planning Department and the Metro South Chamber of Commerce sometime later in 2025, probably sometime around May. So keep your eyes on that if you're interested in your Irish heritage. But for now, we're going to talk about some of our Plymouth County notable records. Last month I talked about baseball because the World Series was about to get underway. And I did bring up already a notable record from a baseball player from Brockton, Billy McGonigal. He was an inventor of the catcher's mitt. Back in those days, there were no gloves, and as the balls got tighter and tighter, it was really difficult for catchers to catch the ball. They were breaking their fingers. So Billy McGonigal started using bricklayer's gloves to deaden the impact of the glove, and that led in part to the development of the catcher's mitt and the fielding gloves that people use now. But the reason I bring that up, he was a former shoe worker, played amateur baseball. I mentioned what he did with the gloves. But because he had his skull fractured by a pitch, he then could not play anymore, but he became a manager. And he went down to Brooklyn, New York, and he managed a baseball team called the Brooklyn Bridegrooms. The Brooklyn Bridegrooms actually won back-to-back championships in 2 different baseball leagues, the American Association and then the National League. First time anybody has ever done it in history for different leagues, and the only time in history that it's ever been. So the Brooklyn Bridegrooms became the Brooklyn Dodgers, and they had a great subway series with the Yankees, crosstown series. But then the Brooklyn Bridegrooms left Brooklyn and went to California, and they became the Los Angeles Dodgers. So if you watch the Dodgers win that World Series, the roots go back to Brooklyn, New York, and they go back to Billy McGonigal from the city of Brockton. And there's a great little plaque in his honor. The next one I'm going to talk about is a event that we had recently, the second time in United States history that a president who had been defeated in office came back and won the position. It had only happened once in American history, and the president was Grover Cleveland. Grover Cleveland was the 22nd president of the United States. So Grover Cleveland was defeated after his first term by a man by the name of Benjamin Harrison. Grover Cleveland was a great outdoorsman. He liked to fish and hunt, and for a long time he would come to Plymouth. There's a little section of Plymouth called Manamet Bluffs that he would hunt and duck hunt and fish. And he stayed at a little building there that still has the name on it, the Idlewild Hotel. And actually, he campaigned again and won the presidency back. So he's the 22nd and the 24th president of the United States. Is the only person to do this before our newest president, again, President Trump. And Grover Cleveland actually bought land in Plymouth to build a summer house, but later didn't build on that and bought a house over in Buzzards Bay, where he lived for many, many years to summer. And last but not least, because of our Thanksgiving holiday that we celebrate throughout Plymouth County, and the world, I'm going to talk about John Alden. John Alden came over on the Mayflower, settled in Plymouth Colony. He decided he would not return to England and stayed in Plymouth Colony. And he was asked by Miles Standish, who was in charge of the militia in Plymouth Colony, if he would ask Priscilla Mullen, one of the passengers of the Mayflower's daughter, whether she would like to marry Miles Standish. Went back multiple times, and in fact, Priscilla Mullins never married Miles Standish, but fell in love with John Alden and married John Alden. They later moved to Duxbury. There's still a building there, the John Alden House, and people from all around the country come to visit it because the descendants of John Alden are all over America. And if you're really looking for something to read over the holiday season or the month of November, there's a poem by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, and it's called The Courtship of Miles Standish, and how Miles Standish was rebuffed in trying to get the attention of Priscilla Mullen, but when he asked John Alden to speak for him, it was a big mistake because they fell in love and thereafter became a couple. Last but not least, in our colonial records, there's a colonial record for the town of Scituate, a decision by the colonial court that allowed the colony court to divide the land up in Scituate, a well-known history of the town of Scituate. So I want to thank you for having this show on here at Brockton Cable Access. This was my 170th show. I want to thank in particular Michelle Hebsche for the great job she does here at getting me on track to make my little stories that I can tell and advise people on what they can do with their real estate. So I'll see you next month. Have a great Thanksgiving, and we'll see you in December. Thank you.